job ain't done till we hold that trophy up. Hey.
What's up, everybody? Welcome, episode 557 of the Talking Friars podcast and YouTube show. Ben Fadden here on January 22nd, 2024. It is really raining outside, so if you can hear the pounding on my garage here, that is the rain. But I've got a special guest today, Coach John Kentera, who used to be, obviously, on the radio, has a ton of knowledge around the San Diego Padres, so it is a great guest to have. And John, thank you so much for coming on the show. I definitely appreciate your time.
Hey, Ben, thanks for having me. Always great to talk Padre baseball.
Yeah, so plenty to talk about. I think that a lot of fans are tuning in. First, though, to hear your thoughts on what happened, just to square away everything with 97.3 The Fan. So I just want to start with that, get that out of the way, and then talk about the Padres. So what's your view of how things went down there, why you're no longer at 97.3 The Fan? Adam Klug went on Ben and Woods recently and talked about how on October 12th, he met with you, informed you that they were trying to, or the plan was to go in a different direction on middays. You were offered the opportunity to stay, do weekends. Is that all true? And just what was your side of things on how things went down?
Well, first of all, there was never an actual sit-down meeting. There was a phone call on October 12th where I was told that they were looking to make a change in the middays, and my conversation was, well, why would you do that? I've got historical ratings for sports talk in middays. I mean, you'd have to date back to the mid-1990s, the year the Chargers went to the Super Bowl in 1994. Chet Forty and Steve Hartman got a 6.0 in the ratings, and in October, or I guess in September, I got an 8.2, so that set an all-time record. And for the prior months, I'd been number one in the market in the time slot. We talked again briefly on the telephone on the 17th. We did have a Zoom call for about 3 minutes, and I was basically told that they wanted to have a show that took less phone calls. Well, no, somebody should have told me that. That's really all I know, to be honest with you. I was scheduled to work to December 22nd. The story broke on December 21st. I wasn't allowed to do my show on December 22nd. And, I mean, as far as getting the job done, I think I got the job done ratings-wise. Anytime if you can finish in the top 10, let alone in the top 1 or 2 in the market in your time slot, you're doing a heck of a job. And, like I've told people, I mean, the ratings were fantastic. I think people liked what we did. A lot of times you're up for the employee of the year. Instead, I got a pink slip, and hey, more power to them. They can do whatever they want. We wish them the best of luck. I had a great run there, and we'll see where I end up, if anywhere. I don't know exactly what the plan is for me, but I'm a guy that has, I think, a lot of faith that I'll find another job if and when that occurs, and we'll go from there. And again, the management can say what they want. I've been very, very quiet, to be honest with you, on this. First time I've really talked publicly on this whatsoever, aside from talking with Paul Rudy one day a little bit. But I really don't know why they decided to make a change. I mean, there's nobody in this town that'll be more than happy to talk Padre baseball morning, noon, or night, and great experience. And I think the fans enjoyed what I did, and hopefully, I'll get an opportunity to get back to my loyal listening audience here before too long.
Yeah, so I did have that one question. So did they ever give you that opportunity to go to a lesser caller-driven show? Like, let's say it would have been you and Braden talking more instead of a bunch of callers. Did that opportunity, was that ever given to you?
No, everybody let me do my own show. I mean, we were having great success with it. I don't know why you mess with not only a program, but a station that was leading the market. It made no sense whatsoever. But again, sometimes people try to reinvent the wheel. And as far as that weekend show, there was no way I was ever going to accept that. I wasn't going to work 2 days for a total of $96. for 4 hours being on the radio, driving up and down the freeway at gas prices. I've got 6 grandchildren. 4 of them play athletics. The station knew that. They offered me a garbage deal to stay there on Saturdays. They knew I would never accept it because they knew that my loyal fan base would be calling in those 4 hours every weekend, bitching, moaning, and complaining that I wasn't on Monday through Friday. So they never wanted me to accept it. That's why it was such a poor effort by them.
Okay. So you don't know what's next. Like, I know that obviously you have a fan base, so you don't know if you're going to do a podcast or a YouTube show or back on the radio, or do you have any plans?
Well, Ben, I'll be honest with you. I'd like to get back on in time for the start of baseball. I'm kind of enjoying the vacation here. That's kind of the way I'm looking at it right now. But I'm certainly keeping my ear to the ground, talking to baseball people. I'm excited about pitchers and catchers reporting. If I can be back on in some way, shape, or form by April 1st, I'd be very, very happy and excited because I don't want to miss out on this 2024 baseball season. Neither does my wife because she gets tired of me talking baseball morning, noon, and night. So she needs to get me out of the house doing something.
Yeah, well, you're welcome on. I mean, maybe we could do a weekly on this show. I mean, because I know Padres fans love listening to you. Let's get to the Padres, obviously, here. So what are your thoughts just so far? It's been a slow off season. I mean, there hasn't been a ton to talk about moves-wise, and that's just not with the Padres, but around baseball. What are your thoughts on this Padres off season? Do you think they're heading in the right direction, or do you not like how things are going right now?
Well, I think this sounds kind of funny as we sit here, working our way towards the end of January, but there's still a lot of really good players out there. And I think every day that goes by, the price on those players go down. I think AJ, I want to go back real quick here to the Juan Soto deal. I always thought they were going to trade Soto, so I didn't get all hot and bothered by that. I think they got some good stuff, and I think Michael King will slide in as the number 4 guy, and he had to do a fine job. Randy Vasquez got a good arm. Johnny Brito's got a good arm, and I don't know where those guys are going to factor in, whether they're going to be starters or relievers, but I do believe they're going to help this ball club. Drew Thorpe. First year of pro ball, I think it'd be a tough ask to bring him all the way to the big leagues after spring training. We may see him at some point in time in 2024, but he's not a guy that's going to wow you with his great fastball, but the guy knows how to pitch. And I think he will be here probably at some point, I would think, barring any type of injury or setback. I would think we'd see him at some point in 2024, and you get a backup catcher and I think that's going to help along with Camposano. I'm still kind of hoping that the price on Gary Sanchez would go down. I kind of like to see him back here. I thought he did a lot of really good things. I think the Padres, Ben, when they brought him in, they sat him down and they went through a laundry list of things that they wanted to work with him on. And to his credit, here's a veteran that had played for the Yankees. Yeah, he'd bounced around the last couple of years. He was in Minnesota. Then last year, he ended up with the Giants briefly. He got 6 at-bats with the Mets. The Padres pick him up. And, he's kind of a guy just looking for a home. And they sat down and they presented a lot of really good information to him. And to his credit, he didn't, big league him. I mean, he went out, he got to the ballpark early. He got to know Ruben Niebla. He got to know the pitching staff. He got to, work on some things maybe he hadn't worked on, for a number of years. And I thought he did a great job handling the staff really from day one. He ended up hitting 19 home runs. He's going to strike out a lot. He's going to not hit for a high average, but I thought he did a really nice job. So if they could bring him back, I'd be kind of excited about that, but they still got some work to do. They got to add more pitching. I mean, if they want to really be able to compete, even for a wild card in 2024, we got to find at least one more starter.
And do you think that the starting pitching, because to me it seems like with how this market is, the starting pitching is going to probably have to come from the trade market, at least if they want a 3 or a 4. Let's say King is the 3. If they want a real 4 starter, it feels like it's going to have to come via trade, just because if they want a 4 starter on the free agent market, I mean, it's going to cost them $14 million right now per year.
And what's funny, I mean, you're talking $14 million, and you're talking about almost a middle of the road type of guy, to be honest with you. I mean, the pitching is just unbelievable. I mean, a guy can have a 4.5 ERA and he's getting $10 million a year. Just, I mean, shake yourself a little bit. Normally, if you had a 4.5, you're worried about getting shipped down to AAA in years past. But the Padres have some really good arms, and the throwback on this. I mean, Pedro Avila, they could always throw him in there as a fifth starter if they needed to. Matt Waldron, he is what he is. He's going to give up some long balls. He's going to eat some innings up, but he's going to give up 3 or 4 runs probably in 5 innings. But I think there's a place for a guy like that. Pick and choose, maybe not run him out there for 4 or 5 innings, but he could be a 2-inning guy and probably help you. I think what AJ's going to do. Number one, he's got a great pitching coach in Ruben Niebla. I'm a big fan of his. And I think Mike Shildt knows how to handle a pitching staff. And I think they're going to mix and match guys, and who we see in the starting rotation, the first week, 2 weeks of the year, they're going to probably be the guys that get the bulk of the work. But every once in a while, you're going to have a spot starter here and there. And let's just hope the, guys like Musgrove and Darvish can stay healthy, because one of those guys go down again this year. The Padres are in real dire straits.
Yeah, for sure. I know. I want to get to that Gary Sanchez point that you talked about. Like, do you still think that he's a fit for this team when they acquire Kyle Higashioka to be a backup catcher? They need more left-handed bats in that lineup. Gary is a righty, obviously, but DH bat. Would they try it at first base? Because Jake Cronenworth, we know that he loses his value at second base. Padres need pitching. Maybe you trade Ha-Seong Kim to get starting pitching back in a deal. Cronenworth can go to second base where he is most comfortable, his highest value, and you can find first base DH with Gary. I mean, where would you see Gary fitting?
Well, I think who's going to be the DH right now? Do we know who they've locked in?
Manny right now? I mean, because we don't know if he's going to be healthy at third base.
Yeah, I mean, I think Manny probably early on, but we saw the combination last year when Campusano really started to come on to where, he'd DH or Sanchez would DH. That's not bad. And I realize they're both right-hand hitters. And I know you want to have a balanced lineup, but do we know who's going to play center field? Are we going to get a center fielder who can hit left-handed? Who's going to play left field right now? Is it going to be, are they going to end up signing Jerks and Profar back for the third time? I mean, like I said earlier, a lot of really good players still out there. We really don't know who's going to be in the everyday lineup for the San Diego Padres right now. Higashioka, I think, is a good catcher. I think he hit 9 home runs last year, a career high for him. He's going to be here on a 1-year contract, and he'll be a free agent. With the Padres, if they sign Sanchez, carry 3 catchers. Yeah, they might this year, because one guy could be the DH and you got the other 2 guys. We'll have to wait and see. But AJ, you know what? I think he's done this long enough now. He's not panicking. I don't think, if he's not panicking, you and I shouldn't be panicking, because there's still some good players out there. How much money do they want to spend? Probably not a whole lot. And I do agree with you. If they're going to look for pitching, they're probably going to have to make some type of deal. But you know what, Ben? I don't think Major League Baseball would approve a deal for Ha-Seong Kim going anywhere until after those 2 games in Korea.
Yeah. I mean, there's fans that bring up that where it's like, yeah, the Padres, they're not going to trade Ha-Seong Kim, and maybe they do trade him after Korea before that Thursday game, the home opener.
Right.
But for me, I'm like, you don't not make a move for just 2 games in Korea. I get that Ha-Seong Kim is the big guy, but there's still Shohei Ohtani in a Dodger uniform and Yamamoto. I know they're not for Korea, they're Japan, but still, there's going to be a lot of attention on that series regardless. I think if the right package is offered to the Padres, I think you make the move, because I think it makes sense. It's like Soto building a complete roster. Soto, obviously, they were going to trade him because of the $30+ million that he was going to make. Kim, it's $8 million, I think, this season. Like, it's a big difference there. But in terms of the right package you get back, he's not going to come back in free agency. I think to build more of a complete roster, I think you do it if it makes sense. With AJ Preller, I want to get your thoughts on what does he have to do, or at least the Padres, results-wise, the minimum that the Padres have to do for AJ to keep his job after the 2024 season.
Well, I think that's a tough one because we got to remember AJ's under contract for until 2026 through the
Yeah.
2026 season. I think number one, you got to have a winning season. And does that mean 82 and 80, or does that mean 84 and 78? I think you got to have a winning season, and I think a lot of people probably feel you have to get to the playoffs. I mean, if you can get to the playoffs with the expanded playoffs, I mean, if you win 84 games, you ought to be able to get in. Quite frankly, I mean, we only missed by 2 games last year.
Yep.
We had an awful year, and I know we finished strong. We went 16-2 against some bad ball clubs and 4-5 against good clubs down the stretch. We went 27-7, but against the teams that were 500 or better, we were only 4-5. So we got some work to do here in San Diego, no question about it. But I think if you have a winning season, I think the general manager's safe. I mean, if you ended up winning, 70 games, 71, 72, or finish 7 or 8 games under 500, then, I think the clock would be ticking pretty quick on AJ.
Yeah, with AJ winning season, because I just don't know, because Eric Kutsena hasn't talked yet. That's the tough thing. Like, I don't know how he feels about AJ Preller. What we do know is no one liked AJ Preller more than Peter Seidler. So that's why I just wonder if they don't make the postseason. That's where it's like, okay, it's 2 postseason appearances in 10 seasons, 1 in 9 full seasons. And that's where, the fan base obviously is going to want AJ Preller gone. Where do you stand? Do you think that AJ should have already been gone before this past offseason? I understand him staying this offseason with all of the circumstances that happened, obviously. But before, I mean, some thought that he shouldn't even been allowed to hire Bob Melvin. Like, he got 2 chances at the manager. He went with Tingler that second time around, and he should have been gone after that. Like, are you good with AJ still being here?
Well, Ben, there's a lot to unpack with AJ Preller. First of all, when he took this job, it was in August of 2014. Okay, so his first full year was 2015, and they wanted to go and get all those veterans, James Shields, Matt Kemp. I think that was an ownership thing more than an AJ thing, because at that point in time, I think Peter Seidler, God rest his soul, good man, and knew him very well, and actually met with him a couple of weeks prior to him hiring AJ Preller. We met at a restaurant up off of Mira Mesa Boulevard, and he wanted to get my thoughts on the organization, and I shared my thoughts with him that afternoon, and we talked about AJ, and this is about a week to 10 days before he actually hired AJ as a general manager. But you got to remember, this organization was not very good. They'd gone through, John Morris towards the end, things were, not going well. And then Jeff Morad briefly owned the ball club. And then Peter Seidler and Ron Fowler jumped in. So AJ came into a system that had not developed players, and he slowly built that farm system. And of course, shortly after that 2015 start of the year, after 65 games, they blew out Buddy Black and they brought in Pat Murphy, which I thought was a real mistake in my opinion. Pat Murphy, I think, was a little bit overwhelmed managing. I know he's going to get another opportunity this year in Milwaukee, and I'm sure he'll do a much better job there in Milwaukee than he did here. The players just weren't buying into what he was selling. And of course, you had a lot of veteran players on that team that they eventually, pedaled down the road. And of course, Shields went in the Fernando deal. But AJ had to build this farm system up. He did. He traded a lot of those guys away. We've been expecting more wins, obviously. He's done a lot of really, really good things, but he also, to be honest with you, is very fortunate that Mr. Seidler, believed in continuity, because most general managers, let's be honest, they get 3 to 5 years. I mean, he's going on year number 10 right now. And, something has to change. They've obviously changed the managers out from Buddy Black, who AJ didn't hire, to Pat Murphy, who was interim, and then to Andy Green for 4 years, Jace Tingler for 2, Bob Melvin for 2, and now Mike Shildt. I got to believe he's hired his final manager as the general manager of the San Diego Padres. And if this doesn't work over this year or next year, then, they're going to have no other choice but to go a different direction. But, I'll tell you this, I like AJ Preller personally. I think he's a good guy. I think he's a hard-working guy. I think he's been blessed with great ownership, who's given him pretty much carte blanche to do pretty much anything he's wanted to do. And, overall, it just really hasn't worked out like he would have liked, and like you and I and all the fans would have liked.
Yeah. Were you surprised by how that Bob Melvin thing worked out? And do you like Mike Shildt being hired as the manager of this team?
Well, first of all, I'm not surprised Bob Melvin's not back. I was surprised Bob Melvin came back for year number 2, quite frankly. I think if they wouldn't have had the good run against Philadelphia, I think they may have parted ways. I don't think Bob really, was real comfortable working with AJ. I think that why that's started out and just, kind of disintegrated. Even when they had the press conference, remember the Zoom press conference AJ had and said that Bob Melvin was coming back? On my radio show, when I still had it, I go, I'm not buying that. And
Bob
I didn't
wasn't
buy
there.
it. No, well, Bob wasn't there, but I knew a lot going into that press conference, and I had heard things during the season. I get more information than the average guy because I've been around a long time, and a lot of people trust me, and they know I'm not going to burn bridges. But I just never believed he was going to come back, and I think for him it probably worked out better to go to San Francisco, and I think for the Padres it worked out better to hire a guy like Mike Shildt. Mike Shildt has worked with AJ each of the last 2 years. He's been down in the minor leagues. He's seen what we have, what we don't have. He's gotten to develop some relationships with the big league guys, namely Fernando. I think him and Fernando have hit it off really, really well, which is good. And I think Mike Shildt's a good, solid guy. And, looking at the coaching staff that he's put together, I kind of like the coaching staff. I think he's done a nice job in that area as well.
What are your expectations for this 2024 team? Like, I think there's fans that I'm seeing that it's like, okay, we'll just wait for 2025 because the lowering the payroll, trading Soto, Snell not coming back, Hader not coming back, Waka, Lugo. But for me, I still want to have high expectations for this team. Now, it wasn't as high. Right now, they're not as high as they were going into last year, obviously. But I still think that this team should be a playoff team with the talent that they have, and assuming that more talent will be coming in before the Korea series starts.
Ben, I'm going to tell you what. If you're going down to Peoria, Arizona in the middle of February thinking you can't be a playoff team, then you might as well stay home. And we may all stay home and not go to the ballpark this year. Hey, every day you go to the ballpark, if your guys will play hard, we got good players here. We may not have all the stars that we thought we were going to have, but if you sign some of these free agents that are out there, and I'm not talking about the big money guys, I'm talking about good, solid guys that play hard every night, I guarantee you're going to win your fair share of games. We got to add a little pitching, and then I think we can be a playoff team. Right now, I'd be a little concerned that we're a little bit light in that area. Offensively, we're going to be fine. Well, we got some guys that can really swing the bat, and I think Cronenworth, even though his overall numbers were not very good last year. I watched him before he got hurt, and last few weeks before he got hurt, his approach at the plate got a little better. He was flattening his swing out. He wasn't trying to lift as much. He was getting the barrel head through the hitting area a lot better. I expect a big bounce back for him. Ha-Seong Kim continues to get better. Manny will swing the bat, and congratulations to Manny and his wife. I heard they're going to have their first child, so that's really cool. And wish them the very, very best in the pregnancy and with the child. Bogarts will be better. I'm a big Xander Bogarts fan. Fernando's going to be better. I mean, there's a lot of things that I'm looking forward to because Fernando didn't have a great year last year. He was good, but he wasn't great. He wasn't Fernando, and he'll be better this year. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, the guy missed the entire 162 season the year before. He had 3 major surgeries. Yet he comes back and makes a position change. Not only wins a Gold Glove, but wins a Platinum Glove. And, he had his moments offensively, but, I think he has to be a little bit more selective. I think last year he got himself out more than the pitchers did because he did swing a lot of pitches early in the count, a lot of first pitches last year. And I think after he started doing that, the scouting report got around and they knew he was going to be aggressive on that first pitch and they wouldn't give him a lot of good pitches to hit, and he got himself out a few times. But there's a lot to be excited about with this ball club. I know, the prognosticators a year ago, they were jumping up and down and clicking their heels about the Padres this, the Padres that. Hey, we were supposed to go and win the World Series last year, Benny, if you recall, and this year we'll probably be picked to finish in 3rd place, and maybe that's a good thing. But with the expanded wild card, doggone it, we can be a playoff team, and I'm hoping and expecting it.
Yeah, me too. Because look, these past years, you look at the Diamondbacks, you look at the Rangers, who had to go on the road last year, came down to the last game of the regular season for them. The Phillies, there's so many examples of teams not winning the division, just getting in as a wild card team, and they make it to the World Series. It's about playing great baseball at the right time. Like, get in. If the Padres get in, I assume they're going to be playing pretty good baseball, be that hot team, and who knows what can happen. I mean, we saw it in 2022. I know they didn't get to the World Series, but we saw it. That was a really good Dodger team that they ended up beating. That was a good Mets team that they ended up beating. So, yeah, I mean, there's talent here for sure. And there's a lot of things that did not go right for this Padres team last year. And I have a hard time believing that they're going to be that bad in one-run games, that bad in extra innings again. Some of these players are going to be that bad again. So, yeah, I have a positive outlook, especially when the offseason hasn't concluded yet. We don't know what the full roster is going to look like. I'm not going to be Debbie Downer when I don't know who's going to be in center, who's going to be in left, who's going to be in the rest of the rotation, DH, first base. I'm not going to be negative about it because we just don't know what it's going to look like right now. And again, like you said, like there's talent on this team for sure. Couple last ones here. Peter Seidler, you mentioned. Do you have a favorite Peter Seidler memory with him, Peter Seidler's story? I've met him briefly a couple of times just to thank him for what he's done for the city of San Diego. Always optimistic and just, I think, a great inspiration for a lot of people.
Well, a great inspiration for a lot of people. Did an incredible amount of work, and you know, not. I mean, there were a couple times where we got together, and I asked him advice on my career. And I remember one time in particular, back in 2015, the season was winding down, and I called him up and I go, Peter, could you meet me up in Del Mar on Friday at 3 o'clock at Starbucks a coffee shop? And he goes, absolutely, John. So we came up and we sat out there, and I ran some ideas by him, and he was just a good sounding board, and he was a friend. The thing that I recall that I kind of chuckle about, and I think other members of the media or anybody that ever texted with Peter would chuckle. You might text him at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, and you'll get a response because he's a busy man. You get a response at like 2 o'clock or 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean, and the other thing a lot of people aren't aware of, we know about all the work he did with the homeless, but he used to walk around the streets of San Diego at 1, 2, 3 in the morning and talk to the homeless people out there. And he was an incredible man, got a beautiful wife, got beautiful children, and I knew things were not going well. And I remember just, about a week before he passed away, it was his birthday. And I had sent him a couple of texts, and he didn't respond, which was very unusual for him. And then when I sent him a text on his birthday, he responded. And I kind of took that, Ben, as a sign that, maybe things were going a little bit better, because I'd heard that, things were not going well. And when I got that, and I think it was about 6 or 7 days after that, he passed away. But a great man. I really hope they have that statue up for him. Any type of celebration or that they have for him is well deserved. In the short time he and his family were here, he made a lifetime of an impact on this community. And I think anybody, and I'll speak for other members of the media. I mean, a lot of owners don't make themselves accessible to guys like me. And he ended up becoming a friend. And he always was great if I wanted him to come on. I never really took advantage of that, probably as much as I could have, because I know he was a busy man, but he'd come over to the studio and be on occasionally. And he just said, hey, whenever you need me, give me a call. But I was always very cognizant of his time. But what an incredible man. And I'm looking forward to that statue one of these days, that one where he's got his arms out and a smile on his face. I hope that's the one they go with.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is a good transition. My last question, talking about Peter Seidler, Padres Mount Rushmore. I just did this recently. I have Peter on it for the trajectory that he has sent the Padres into, because if you compare Peter spending wise and all that compared to previous majority owners and chairmans, it's just different. And the hope, the optimism, and then Ray Kroc I have on there as well for, saving baseball in San Diego. And then obviously Tony and Trevor. Who would be on your Padres Mount Rushmore? For anyone involved in the Padres organization, who would be there for you?
Well, I think I think Randy Jones would have to be there at some spot. Ray Kroc has to be there because if it weren't for Ray Kroc, you and I wouldn't be talking right now. We wouldn't be talking about the upcoming Padre baseball season. We'd be talking about how the Padres left here back in the early '70s. Ray Kroc saved baseball. In fact, there were baseball cards that were already printed that year that had Washington National League on them. So Ray Kroc would have to be on there. Randy Jones, I think, because Randy was really our first real national star in '75 and '76. He won the ERA title one year. He won the Cy Young the next. He got the save in the All-Star game in '75. Won the Cy Young in '76 and started the All-Star game and actually got the win in '76. He was our first big national guy. And everything he brought to the table in the community, and he still brings to the community, he'd have to be up there. And, obviously Tony'd be right up there with anybody. Trevor, and I know we had another one, you'd put Peter Seidler up there, but, you got two Hall of Famers and Trevor Hoffman and Tony Gwynn. You got a guy like Randy Jones and what he's meant to this entire franchise and community, and Ray Kroc. And so we're going to put Peter Seidler. We're going to add one guy to the Mount Rushmore for the Padres. We're going to put Peter Seidler there. We'll book in those players with the two owners. How about that?
There you go. Okay, perfect. All right, this has been a great conversation. Hopefully fans enjoyed this, hearing from John Kentera again. Episode 557, Talking Friars podcast and YouTube show, brought to you by main sponsor, of the show, Gaglione Bros Famous Cheesesteaks and Garlic Fries. Their main location is on Friars Road. They're inside Petco Park, inside Snapdragon Stadium as well. You can click the link in the description for their website, the phone number, the address, all that good stuff. John, thank you so much again for the time. I really do appreciate it.
Hey, you're welcome, Ben. Anytime, and let's look forward to pitchers and catchers reporting here before too long.
For sure.